Hi, I'm Savannah Hugdahl, Gloucester County's Public Communications Media Specialist. We wanted to put together a morning show for you to make sure we're sharing all of the exciting things that have been happening at the county government level. Today we've got an inside look at animal control, social services, the Gloucester Museum of History, and a special recap of a meeting with the Virginia Department of Emergency Management. Let's kick things off with public utilities. Utility Inspector Dave Cutts just gave us a demonstration of the county's new Trimble GIS mapping equipment. This tool will help our staff serve customers quickly and efficiently in the case of a water or sewer emergency.
We spent several hours in here locating all the sewer cleanouts, and we're trying to get them accurately captured so the GIS mapping system can be updated. This represents the utilities, the board, the upper management, all conglomerating to just find a better system. So a system that works.
You might see Dave Cutts around Gloucester with this stand in the coming weeks. It's a state-of-the-art tool that will help public utilities keep track of water and sewer access points.
I mean, this thing, it has a 4-inch accuracy. It's just going to be a tremendous asset for, the people that have been here for a while that you learn as you go kind of thing. And we're getting ready to lose some of our 10, and 12-year veterans that know where all this stuff is that the next person won't know. So through this, it'll just be the click of a button and a Google map will walk you right back to where you need to be.
Dr. Orth, a supervisor, struck up a friendship with Cutts at the Wellness Center, and he enjoys coming out to see the work public utilities gets done around town.
As a supervisor, I think one of the roles that we play is to make sure that the people that are in utilities have the right equipment. We've got to have these items because it helps these people find these water pipes and sewer lines, especially if it occurs in the middle of the night where without having that information, they might spend a lot of time looking around and wasting their time.
The county's old system didn't have a complete log of these access points, and some were marked up to 7 feet away on the map.
This device allows us, even if we were back in the woods, would breadcrumb trail us back to that asset that we need to find. So we're trying to capture and update our system 100%. These are assets that we captured on Lewis Avenue that we did not have before. And Sawyer and GIS has already uploaded these, they just haven't put them in yet. Mm-hmm. And if you notice, that's a light green one, so that's a manhole, and all these dark green ones are clean out, so we color code them. It's a good thing. It really, really is. It's just a win-win situation. It's a lot of work to do, but when it's finished, it's going to be tremendous.
This allows our people to be more efficient and to serve the citizens of this county much more effectively.
You can find more information about public utilities online at gloucesterva.info. It's great to see our staff innovating. Being prepared for an emergency is more than half the battle. Our next segment deals with exactly that. If you're the kind of person who steps up to the plate when a severe storm or other disaster hits, you're going to want to reach for your computer or smartphone. Gloucester's Community Emergency Response Team trains volunteers to meet a critical need in times of crisis, and they have a class coming up this month.
My name's Jim Pike, and I am the operations chief for Gloucester CERT. CERT is the Community Emergency Response Team, and we are here to supplement first responders during a disaster, but we also do community events and assist with other things. A lot of the times what we're doing is preparing for whatever could be coming. We will man telephones to answer questions for folks when they call. We may go out and look for flood areas, and we'll look at high tide and see what it looks like and report back to emergency management. During high winds or a tornado, which has happened a few times, go out and, for instance, cut up a bunch of trees that are just laying in someone's yard. That's not something the fire company's going to do. Come to somebody's yard and clean it up, but if you're a disabled person and you've got debris in your yard, if we can, we'll come out and do that. We have our new members class coming on May 20th and 21st. It's about 7.5, 8 hours worth of class. We will go through the different modules of CERT and get you trained up in all these different items. We'll talk about what the organization is about, how we organize and participate in these types of things. What you learn too is for yourself, because you're going to learn, what do I need to do to be prepared for a disaster? Do I have a bag of things that I should take with me? Do I have money set aside? Do I have water? Do I have a plan? Does my family have a plan? You're going to learn how to stop someone from bleeding. You're going to learn how to slow the bleeding. You're going to learn how to know if someone's not breathing and those types of things. We will supplement those later as well through CPR, but this is just like the beginning. How can you assess someone and help them as quickly as possible to save their life, basically. You can volunteer as many hours as you want and as little hours as you want. You just need this beginning training. If you're a person who would come out during a disaster to help, without this training, you would not be able to participate fully in any type of thing. We train to make sure that you know as much as you possibly can, but you will learn over time as well. You will do other things and participate to the point where you could be one of our future leaders. It doesn't cost you anything. Just come participate. For you to be a CERT member and be able to volunteer, you have to have taken this class, finished it, all 8 modules, and we have fun. I just like being part of something that can help the community. I don't have the time to be a volunteer fireman or medic or anything like that. So this is a way for me to give back. If you are coming, go to our website and go under the CERT link on the emergency management site and sign up. We'd like to know how many people are coming so we can have a lot of food.
In case you missed that, you can pre-register by going to gloucesterva.info, clicking the Government tab, and looking for Emergency Management. It's been a busy few weeks for that department. On April 20th, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management's Hurricane Program Coordinator, Bruce Sterling, paid Gloucester a visit. He came to talk to us about the risks of flooding and what you can do to prepare yourself and your family. Let's watch an excerpt from the meeting.
Now I'm going to talk about, we've talked about the hazards. Now we're going to start talking about what you can do to be better prepared and protect yourself. And we'll start off first with watches in the mornings. And I'm sure everybody's heard, watches in the mornings talked about. But just in case you haven't, I'm going to just go through these real quick. First thing we have is a tropical storm watch or warning. So tropical storm watch is issued within 48 hours of the arrival of tropical storm force winds. And then a warning would be 36 hours. So, if it's, that's one of the things you want to watch. You don't want to put too much emphasis on the cone or the track or anything. This is really what you need to pay attention to, these watches or warnings. Hurricane watch and warning is when there are hurricane conditions, watches, when they're possible in 48 hours. This is when you need to start taking your protective actions. Getting lawn furniture in or stuff off out of your yard, securing that. If you have an emergency plan, start to kind of brush up on that, figure out if I've got to evacuate, where am I going to go, start doing those types of things now. Once there's a hurricane warning issued, if there's an evacuation order given, if you live in the evacuation zone, you really need to go ahead and start evacuating. And then the last is a storm surge watch warning. This is fairly new. This has only been in existence since 2017. And this is, the watch is the possibility of threatening inundation in 48 hours, whereas the warning is the danger of life-threatening inundation in 36 hours. And Cody Fritz, who's the leader of the storm surge unit at the National Hurricane Center, I've heard him say over and over, when I issue a storm surge warning, I mean it. So this here is probably the one thing you need, the most important thing is a storm surge warning. If that's issued, you really need to pay attention. Because, as I mentioned, that's why we evacuate. We don't evacuate for wind, we evacuate for storm surge.
That meeting dropped gem after gem of flooding safety tips. We don't have time to watch the full recording right now, but if you're interested, it's on the Gloucester County, Virginia YouTube page. Next, we're taking a trip to the museum. Let's look at one of the newest exhibits there.
Hey, my name is Robert Kelly, and I'm the museums coordinator here at the Gloucester Museum of History. If you've never been to the museum before, there's a lot of cool things to check out. I've only been in town since January of 2020. Time flies and you're having fun. But if you haven't been here lately, definitely come by and check it out. We have some wonderful exhibits, wonderful local history, and we're located right on Main Street, right beside the historic 1766 courthouse, just down the road from several great restaurants and shops. So it's really a wonderful place to spend a day. And the other exciting thing is when you step your foot inside the museum, you're actually going back in time. The museum's located inside of a tavern that was built in 1770. The building is over 250 years old, and we have just so much history and so much fun to share with you all. For me, one of the most exciting exhibits that we've done lately is this wonderful exhibit featuring the duck decoys of local commercial fisherman William McKinley Smith. He was born in the 1890s, and he was a commercial fisherman. He supported his family by living off the land. And one of the ways that he would do this is by hunting ducks, particularly in the wintertime for food. Ducks are really cool animals. The main way that folks would use these decoys is they'd set up in a duck blind, and then you would set out on the water, a couple dozen, if not more, decoys. And the idea being is that the decoys actually attract the real live duck. And based on the type of species that you set out, oftentimes that exact species will come and hang out in front of the duck blind. But as his friends and as local visitors to the county saw his decoys, they wanted to take them home with them as souvenirs because he was just such a talented carver. So over the years, many folks here in Gloucester and really across the world have collected the decoys of William McKinley Smith. It's really wonderful, and there's a diverse collection of ducks from buffleheads to wood ducks to canvasback. There's a Canadian goose, the redhead. It just really dives into really Gloucester's history and culture. And we also wanted to kind of talk about the natural history and beauty of Gloucester because a lot of folks don't know that all these different migratory ducks are here, and it's been wonderful. It's only been on display for about a month. But we've had a lot of folks come in and say, hey, I've seen those and I never knew, what that was. So it's a wonderful exhibit. It'll be on display for 2 years. There's a lot to see. Whether you like history, art, or culture, whatever it is, I think you'll find a little something here at this exhibit.
Robert and the museum volunteers can tell you a whole lot more if you come visit in person. It's free and open to the public midday, Mondays through Saturdays. I learned a lot on my visit. I also learned a lot while working on May's Current Conversations podcast. Side note, did you know Gloucester County had one of those? You could check out past episodes of Gloucester's Current Conversations podcast by going to the Community Engagement and Public Information section of the county's website. This time we spoke with Lisa Kersey, the Director of Gloucester's Social Services, about some programs that protect the most vulnerable in our community. Welcome to the May 2023 episode of Gloucester's Current Conversations podcast. I'm Savannah Hugdahl with the Community Engagement and Public Information Department, and I'll be hosting today. I'd like to introduce our special guest, Lisa Kersey, the Director of Gloucester County's Social Services Department. She's here to tell us a little bit about the Adult Services and Adult Protective Services programs here in the county. Welcome, Lisa.
Good morning, Savannah. Thanks for having me.
So good to have you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started? So how long you've been with Gloucester and what you find the most rewarding about your job?
Sure. I've been with Gloucester County Social Services for just over 25 years, working in a variety of the programs we offer to the citizens of Gloucester. There's so many rewarding things about my job. Probably working with the people in our community, sometimes at the worst moments in their lives, and working through what has brought them to us and helping them get back on their feet and get past that worst moment in their life.
It would make you feel good at the end of the day, really, to be doing that. How long have you been the director?
I've been the director almost 5 years now. This fall will be 5 years.
Awesome. So what kind of programs fall under social services umbrella generally?
Typically, we're I don't want to use the word divided, but there's two categorical programs. One is our benefits program, which is things such as SNAP, food supplement benefits, Medicaid, child care, temporary assistance to needy families, or the TANF program, our VIEW program to help folks get back to work, and of course our energy assistance program, which is a very popular program. The other category is our services division, which offers assistance with court-ordered work such as custody home studies, interstate placement of children, foster care and adoption, child protective services, and this month we celebrate Adult Abuse Prevention Month. So we do offer a wide array of adult services and adult protective services.
It's awesome. So when we're honing in on the adult services and adult protective services, can you go into what they do and who they're for just a little bit?
Sure. In order to qualify for adult services or adult protective services, a citizen has to be 60 years of age or older, or an individual who is 18 years of age or older with a disability. And we work to offer them, whether it's protective services or ongoing services. We offer screenings for community-based care and nursing home or assisted living placements. There's a wide variety of things that we can do to help folks out.
Yeah, I can see how that would be really helpful for people. Is that a big need in Gloucester County? Can you tell me about how many people you serve on a yearly basis?
Yeah, so statewide in Virginia last year, over 2 million people were served. In Gloucester County, we had well over 500 in the area specifically related to adult protective or adult services. In general, for our whole program area and as an agency, we served well over 10,000 citizens last year alone.
So when you say program area, what is that for y'all?
That means whichever division under the category of services or benefits. So for example, adult services and adult protective services falls under a family services category, with the program area being adult protective services or adult services.
All right. So I know you have to keep names and specific details confidential just to protect the people who you are serving. But can you tell me, like, maybe one vignette or story about how your department helps someone with one of these needs?
Sure, we have a lot, thank goodness. It's wonderful to help someone in crisis and get them in a more comfortable position. We have a variety. We have young adults with disabilities that we're able to get care for in their home. We have many elderly who we want to be able to remain in their home and get care rather than going to a residential or long-term care facility. We recently were able to relocate some folks who were being evicted from their home and had nowhere to go and no family to help. And we were able to find them a new place to live and assist with relocation to get them settled in a permanent residence of their own.
It's wonderful. Is there an income bracket that makes you qualified or not qualified?
That, Savannah, just depends on the program. For adult services and adult protective services, it's the age group and or disability. For things like our energy assistance or our benefits program, those are certainly income-based as set by the guidelines of the Code of Virginia and the State Department of Social Services. We adhere to the rules and guidelines that are set by the state. We here at the local level in Gloucester do not make those decisions in terms of any benefits.
So what about when someone, is 18 or older with a disability? What kind of disabilities are we talking about?
Typically, it has to be a disability where they're not competent to make their own safe decisions, or a disability that prevents them from being able to safely care for themselves. So again, that could be a wide array of issues. The one thing that many people confuse is, for example, with child protective services, if it's a dangerous situation and we can't locate a family or friend to care for the children, the Code of Virginia allows us to remove children from their family home. Of course, that is not anything we ever want to do. We always try very hard to find an alternate placement in agreement with the parents. However, there's times that has to occur. In contrast, we don't have that option with adult protective services. And many times citizens see other community members living in conditions that they may not live in themselves. But if an adult is elderly and they have the capacity to make those decisions for themselves, they can choose to live in whatever condition they are at. So sometimes it makes it very difficult because we as an agency see a need for improvement to help the citizen with their health or well-being, but the citizen simply doesn't want the service, and they are able to make that decision as an adult that is competent.
You certainly want to be taking people's wishes into account. If they're an adult, they can make their own choices.
Very much so, yes.
So your staff who does this, can you tell me about them and about, what a day in the life of someone who manages these kind of programs might look like?
Sure. We currently have 3 individuals who work in that department, and no one day is ever the same. They can come to work planning on getting, 3 tasks done, but we may receive an emergency call and they have to respond immediately out to the community to check on someone's well-being. We do offer a lot of screenings, which we go into the home with a public health nurse and evaluate people's ability to complete their activities of daily living, whether they qualify for assistance in the home, if we can assist with that. We may simply be doing what's called an adult services case, linking families to resources to help them find providers. We as an agency do not provide the providers such as companions, but we do work with other local businesses and agencies that we connect the clients with to get those services. So I wish I could say every day is the same, but it's not. And that's probably what makes us love our jobs.
It's an adventure, and it's one that I feel good about. Wow, helped all these people today.
I have wonderful memories of the work I did with many of the folks in Gloucester.
What should people be looking for in considering whether or not to report a situation, and then how would they report it if it met those standards?
So one thing I want to say is don't ever be afraid to call us. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to know anything. If you have a concern about an individual, call our agency. We can be reached at 804-693-2671 during working hours. And after hours, you simply call the Gloucester County Sheriff's Department at the non-emergency line, and we have a representative available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can also call the 24-hour toll-free hotline for adult abuse, and that number is 888-832-3858. Any concerns you have, please let us know, and we will do our best to help someone out and get them the services that they deserve to have.
So that could be condition of living, losing a home, needing help, any of those kinds of things.
It could be physical abuse. We see an increased amount of financial exploitation. If you see someone who, has adequate income but is unable to pay their bills, unfortunately, many of our elders buy into some of the scams that go on, such as our SNAP scam that we've been having going on with people getting PIN numbers and using clients' benefits off of their SNAP card. It's really important to, make sure someone has heat in the winter and cooling in the summer, adequate food. And, the biggest thing too is many of our elders are isolated or home alone. Check in on your neighbors, see how they're doing. If you have a concern, call us. We'll be happy to help.
That's wonderful. Thanks for explaining all that for our people. Can you give us those numbers one more time?
Of course, directly to our agency is 804-693-2671, and the 24-hour Adult Protective Services hotline is 888-832-3858.
Is there anything you'd like to say about social services that people might not know, just to wrap up what you do and why it's important before we sign off?
I would like to just mention that we are doing the post-pandemic Medicaid and SNAP benefits unwinding. Please make sure that our agency has your most up-to-date address. And please, if you get any mail from the Department of Social Services, don't ignore it. Open the mail and give us a call if you have any questions. It's critically important that you keep in touch with us so that your benefits don't get canceled.
Thank you, Lisa.
It's important to know what resources are available to you, in case you or a loved one ever needs them. Kersey's team works hard to make the county a safer place for everyone. While you might not know it, animal control plays a big role in community safety too. They pick up stray pets, help catch loose livestock, enforce animal welfare laws. They help the health department investigate potential rabies exposure, and they have a dog shelter where you could come adopt a new best friend. We're going to take you on a ride along with Gloucester's Chief Animal Control Officer. He may be able to answer some of your questions.
I'm Steve Baranick, Chief Animal Control Officer with Gloucester County. I've been here since I started on December 1st in 1999, so a little over 23 years. We're going up to an animal welfare check. Somebody had called up about somebody tying their dogs up outside and not having enough shelter. It was an anonymous complaint. With all these calls, I kind of take them with a grain of salt sometimes, and just because sometimes you go out there and you find no problems. All those laws are actually posted online on the county website under animal control. On the left-hand side, there's a place that says local ordinances, and they can click on that. And it lists all the ordinances for the county, as well as there's a section just about animals. Every dog needs a license, with the exception of, there are a few exceptions of seeing eye dogs, hearing aid dogs, you know. Other than that, all dogs are required to have a county license in the state of Virginia. That's a state law as well as a local ordinance. It's a twofold thing. First off, you buy a license and it's on the dog's collar and we pick it up, we're gonna know who it belongs to, and you'll get your dog back quicker. The other reason is because in the state of Virginia, there's no law that says a dog has to wear a rabies vaccination tag. But to buy a county license, you have to show the rabies paperwork. Just when we pick up a dog that has a county license on, we know it's got a good rabies shot, and we'll treat it a little bit more differently, you know, not be so apprehensive to not getting bit. We don't want to get bit at all, but by seeing a county license on a dog, it's a good, you know, good possibility that the dog does have a good rabies vaccination, and it is owned by somebody. If we pick up a dog that's got a license that's not in a leash law area, because there are certain areas of the county that are leash law, if it's got a license on, we'll call up the owner. They come pick up their dog. Doesn't cost them anything. If it's got a microchip, we're definitely gonna, you know, call the microchip company. But if there's no identification on the dog at all, the law says we hold it for 5 days. And after 5 days, then it becomes county property. At that point, we would try to adopt the dog out. I'm prior military. I retired after doing 20 years in the Air Force. And I used to be a jet mechanic and see the world, and flew all over the place. Always loved animals, always had dogs. When we moved here to Gloucester, I saw the job in the paper and I said, oh, I gotta try this. And 1 year turned into 5 years, turned into 10 years. And the next thing I know, here I am still, you know, love the job, love the people I work with, and the things we can do to try to help, you know, Gloucester be a better community and help the animals out. There was one situation down in the Guinea area, probably around 7 years ago. I picked up this dog that was just walking along the side of the road. It was a scraggly old, like, Schnauzer mix, and it looked like it had been living out on its own for, you know, the past 6 months or so. So I took it back to the shelter and I scanned it and had a microchip. I was like, oh, great. So I called up the microchip company. I said, you know, here's the number. And they came back, you have this dog? I said, yes, I do have this dog. It's right here. They said, wow, this dog went missing 5 years ago. I said, 5 years ago? Wow, what happened, you know? And so they told me, they said, this lady had her dog in her car up at Richmond. She ran inside like 7-Eleven or something to get a cup of coffee. She came out, dog was gone. Somebody had actually opened the car up. She said the windows weren't down enough for the dog to get out, and stole her dog. Well, they called her up, and 45 minutes later from Richmond, she was at the door, and she called out the dog's name, and the dog literally jumped out of my arms into hers. And it was just one of those, you know, tear-jerk moments, you know. There's a lot of things, like, again, we see that there's reasons why there's neglect of animals. In today's economy, you got to think about somebody's, you know, financial standing. So you have to go out there, find out what the whole story is. You know, there's sometimes excuses that are good. And then sometimes those excuses are not good, you know. And if we can get them some kind of help, we will. We steer them to the Humane Society and their pet pantry where they have food they can, you know, give out for free. And then there's also the spay-neuter clinic. We can steer them to that direction to get their animals fixed. People don't know that we do so much for the animals, that we don't euthanize everything, that our what we call live release rate is always in the 90s. That means over 90% of the animals that come to us either go back home or they find new homes. Just today I picked up a puppy, and I know it's escaped from somewhere, and I'm just waiting for the phone to ring. Somebody doesn't know until they're going to get home from work, and it's going to be so much of a relief for them to know that their dog is safe.
The Animal Control Shelter is one of my favorite places in the county to visit. You can't just walk in though. You need to call ahead to make an appointment to meet with one of the dogs. That number is 804-693-5290. That's all we have time for right now, but you can always keep up to date with our programs by following the county's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. There's lots more on the Gloucester County website too, gloucesterva.info. If you visit there, you can sign up for the new emergency alert system, keep track of Board of Supervisors meetings, read the most recent town crier, and lots more. Take care, Gloucester.